Welcome to the Slyman Theater in beautiful downtown New Iberia for the forum of candidates seeking the office of the Iberia Parish Tax Assessor. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the Greater Iberia Chamber of Commerce, Iberia Comprehensive Community Health Center, and Leadership Iberia. There are a few announcements I'd like to make before we start this evening's program, and that is make sure you turn off your phone or put it on vibrate so it does not ring during this time. Our sponsors wish to remind you also that tonight's program is purely informational. Neither the Chamber, Iberia Comprehensive Community Health Center, nor Leadership Iberia program endorses any particular candidate running for office. Another reminder, deadline to register to vote by mail or at the Office of Motor Vehicle is October 7th. Deadline to register to vote through the Go Vote online registration system is October 15th. Also, the Chamber is posting all the forums on their YouTube channel, youtube.com/goodnewsiberia, and the Chamber's Facebook page at iberiachamber.org. Now, the YouTube will be available as soon as it all gets posted up. Right now it's not going to be there, but give it a day or so and it'll be there. So right now, I would like to introduce our moderator for this evening's forum. Her name is Michelle Mesh. She's the PR and Marketing Manager for Iberia Comprehensive Community Health Center, Incorporated. Michelle, it's up to you.
Thank you, Gary. At this time, I would like to introduce the candidates for Iberia Parish Tax Assessor. All candidates in this race were invited to participate. Those in attendance tonight are Mr. David Groner, Mr. Raymond Shudu-Lewis, and Ms. Ashley Meyer-Spiker. Sorry, I'm going to get it right. Ashley Meyer-Spiker.
That's okay. Thank you.
All right, so each candidate is going to have 90 seconds for an opening statement. We will then ask a series of questions, which each candidate will have 120 seconds to answer. That's 2 minutes. And my math said 3, but it is 2, I promise, unless otherwise noted. Each candidate has also been given 2 rebuttal cards that they can use to take 60 seconds to comment on something the other candidate said during their answer. Those candidates wishing to use a rebuttal card will hold up their card after the other candidate finishes their answer to that question. And when recognized, they'll get 1 minute to offer their additional thoughts. When you use your rebuttal card, please place it in the basket after you're called on. The candidates, however, should be selective when they use their cards, because when your rebuttals are used, that's it. 2 and that's it. If the candidate wants to use a rebuttal card, hold it up so that you make sure that I can see it. To assist the candidates in keeping time, we have a timekeeper and timing lights situated down here in front. Candidates, when your time begins, the green light will come on. When you have 15 seconds left, the yellow light will come on. And when your time is up, the red light will come on. At this time, you must finish your sentence. If that takes more than a few seconds, the buzzer's going to sound. So there you go. So we know what to expect. Due to time limits and to maintain our fair atmosphere, we ask that the audience please hold any applause or other comment. All the questions I will ask tonight were predetermined. Questions were solicited from the public, and then an unbiased committee reviewed the questions submitted and came up with those that are to be asked tonight. All questions have been kept in strict confidence, and no one except the committee members and myself have seen them. At this time, we're going to start with opening statements. After our question portion, we will have closing remarks in the reverse order. So tonight we will start our opening statements with Mr. Groner, and we'll continue to the right.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm David Groner, and I'm very pleased to be here tonight. I want to thank the Chamber for putting this event on with the other sponsors, and I want to thank the audience and the people back home watching this. This is a great opportunity to compare the candidates, to look at the education, experience, and public service of the candidates, and then compare and see who would best bring this assessor's office forward for the future. I'm a lifelong resident of Iberia Parish, Louisiana. I actually grew up between Jeanerette and New Iberia, where I spent most of my life until I graduated from New Iberia Senior High School. And then from there, I went to LSU. I applied for it and got accepted and finished LSU. When you attend LSU, half the class never makes it to graduation, and I graduated. After LSU, I applied for and got admitted to LSU Law School, something that's very difficult to do. And again, I completed law school. A third of the class flunks out of law school, doesn't make it till the end, and I completed it. And then I took a bar exam. I completed the bar exam, and I've been practicing law in New Iberia ever since. In my field of practice, I have accomplished many things. I've become one of the top 100 lawyers in Louisiana, named by Louisiana Life magazine, and the only lawyer in Iberia Parish to be named super lawyer by that same organization. I've also had a lot of community service, and it looks like I'm going to be out of time. Before I leave, I just want to introduce my wife, Carolyn. She's here tonight. I never get to introduce her. Hi, Carolyn. There you are.
Mr. Lewis?
I need to hold on.
Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
Good evening. I am Raymond Shudu Lewis, no stranger to none of you. I am the only candidate running for assessor that has ever been elected by the voters. I have served the people of Iberia Parish honorably for nearly 20 years. I have a reputation as a fighter for the people. I believe in returning my phone calls, helping those in need. Those are the characteristics that I will bring to the assessor's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spiker?
Good evening. Ashley Myers Spiker, Iberia Parish Assessor. Born and raised in Iberia Parish, I am a Jeanerette native. I have been married 23 years to Heath Spiker, and we have 4 beautiful children. I have dedicated nearly 20 years to serving the residents of Iberia Parish as an employee of the Assessor's Office. I was sworn in on January 9th as Assessor, vowing to continue serving with integrity, transparency, and efficiency in order to protect property values. I am the only candidate in this race that is a certified assessor and lifelong Republican. I am a civic leader, a volunteer, a small business owner who has chosen to invest in our community. I am running for assessor because I truly love what I do. I am the only candidate that has the institutional knowledge and experience required to successfully lead this office. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank everyone. We will begin our questions.
A rebuttal?
Can they have a rebuttal on the opening statements?
That's mine.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
You have 60 seconds, Mr. Lewis.
Ms. Spiker claims she is good government, and no one else in the parish is qualified as she is. Well, if using taxpayers' dollars to pay her phone, car, to go around politicking in what she thinks is right, she is wrong. If she thinks making her public employees go knocking doors to campaign in the heat is right, she is wrong.
Okay, we will begin with question number 1, and question number 1 will begin with Mr. Lewis. Question number 1, remember you have 2 minutes to answer the question. What about your education, experience, and background makes you the best qualified candidate?
Ma'am, I just laid it out for you. I've been elected 6 times. 6 times. City council and school board member. I'm the only candidate up here that has lowered your millages, lowered your ad valorem taxes, lowered bonds that the school district did at maybe, let's say, 5%. The bond people come in and tell us we can give it to you at 3%. I'm the only one up here with that experience, that vote. I'm the only candidate that has cast the vote to actually reduce your taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spiker, would you like me to repeat the
Please.
question?
Yes.
What about your education, experience, and background makes you the best qualified candidate?
Well, I believe I have the highest designation for an assessor, being a certified assessor, but also the experience of working my way up and through the office. I have worked in the real estate department, I have worked in the GIS, in the commercial department, I have served as a chief deputy, and now serving as assessor. So I believe my experience in each and every department gives me that advantage and the education and knowledge needed to lead that office. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rebuttal, Mr. Groner.
Okay. Ms. Spiker uses the phrase certified assessor as though that's a highly educational experience. I pulled the statute. It's a 60-hour course. It's basically less than 2 weeks that you go to classes. And I called the assessors committee today and I asked them, has anyone ever failed this class? They said they don't remember anyone ever failing it. That to me is, I'll tell you why why there is such a thing as a certified assessor. It's because the legislature, instead of increasing the assessor's salary, they said if you achieve this little designation of called certified assessor, you get $20,000 a year in increase in salary. So that's what this is all about. It's all about getting a $20,000 increase in salary. It has nothing to do what helps the people, what helps the assessor's office do its job. It's all about money.
Ms. Spiker?
Yes, and that is incorrect. And the person that he called did call me today too, and that is incorrect. Each class is 32.5 hours. You're required to take 5 of those courses, and it can take up to, they give you 4 years to take that, to complete the certification. You get a 7% salary increase if passed. And we do have people that fail it all the time. Unfortunately, several of my employees have failed their designation, their attempt at the designation. So that is incorrect.
Okay.
That is an incorrect
I
statement.
will remind you all, put your rebuttal cards in the basket when you use them, please. Okay, great, thank you.
Well, let me just read this. I'm on my time. Let me just read exactly.
If you use a second rebuttal card, Mr. Groner,
No, I'm not
you're
using a rebuttal
welcome
card.
to.
It's my turn to speak.
You need to use your second one. You've already used your one.
Okay.
And she went, so
That's fine.
you need to use your second one.
I'm not using my second.
Okay, all
Okay.
right. Now we're to you with question number 1. Do you
Okay.
need me to repeat it?
No, let me finish what I was going to tell you. Here it is, $20,954 because of the, and look, if it's not 2 weeks, what she's saying is 4-week class. Let me explain to you my education experience. First of all, what does the assessor do? It has 2 jobs according to the Constitution. 1, determine who owns the property and where is the property in Iberia Parish. 2, determine the fair market value. That's it. They have 11 employees to do those 2 jobs. What is my background experience? I'm a licensed title attorney. What qualifies me for that? 4 years of undergraduate college, 3 years of law school, and then I have to take a test with the Louisiana Insurance Commission. No bank or lending institution would loan any money based on a certified assessor's appraisal. There's no such thing. It takes a certified appraiser for a bank to loan money on. That takes years of experience. The second thing, as far as fair market value, When the Corps of Engineers was expropriating property in the Chaffalaya Basin, the federal judges said, we don't want all these cases clogging up the federal courts. They appointed an attorney to head up a commission to listen to the cases, to review the evidence, and make a recommendation to the judges. Who was that person? Out of 10,000 lawyers in South Louisiana, they appointed me. I did dozens of cases. I heard the evidence. I determined fair market value. Not one case was ever overturned by a federal judge, and not one case was ever appealed by either the Corps or the landowner. Why? Because I was always fair. I want to be your advocate for fairness in the assessor's office. The assessor's office has been the same group of people for 50, 60 years. If we're going to ever have change, this is the opportunity to have change and bring the office to progress in the future. Thank you. I want to be your assessor.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to question number 2. Ms. Spiker, we begin with you,
Okay.
and then we'll go to Mr. Groner and then Mr. Lewis. What are the 3 biggest issues facing the tax assessor's office, and what or how would you address each?
The 3 biggest, probably communication. I'm learning that through this campaign, seeing how many people are unaware or don't understand what the assessor really does. The assessor is responsible for 3 things: to discover, identify its use, and value all property that qualifies for ad valorem taxation. The second thing, I think our office does a really good job. We are constantly updating technology. We send all our employees to anything that, any educational classes that would benefit their department. But I have realized maybe, the outreach. For a long time, they would use newspapers or whatever. The second I was sworn in as assessor, within a month, I did a mail out letting everyone know that 2024 was a revaluation year. These are all the exemptions that you may or may not qualify for, and for you to come in before we apply those values. So,
Okay, thank you. Mr. Groner, do you need me to repeat the question?
Please repeat the question.
Okay. What are the 3 biggest issues facing the tax assessor's office, and what or how would you address each?
Okay, the biggest problem is the assessor has lost the human touch. They have now used a computer software program to do their valuations, and that program does not take into account the enormous cost of flood insurance that's devastating for the town. Shudu agrees with me. The town of Delcombe, the town of Lydia, anyone that has a flood zone, they're paying enormous costs. That's reducing their property values. That's not being considered by the assessor's office. That would reduce the taxes they pay if they would just take it into consideration. I've met with several certified appraisers, and they agree with me. There could be a formula used to incorporate the enormous cost of flood insurance in determining the value of property. They're not doing that at the assessor's office because it's just a computer. Let me tell you about that computer. A friend of mine, Chris Jordan, buys the Regions Bank building, $775,000. What does the assessor's office do? They come back and say, it's worth $3 million. Chris says, hey, you're worth $3 million. Gets an appraiser, it's worth $1 million. The assessor's office says, it's our way or the highway. And I hear that a lot from people going to the assessor's office. What does Chris Jordan do? He goes on the highway. He goes to Baton Rouge, goes to the tax commission. What does the tax commission do? It says, it's $1 million. What is the assessor doing? That's the problem. They just depend on a computer program, no human touch. If I'm your assessor, I'm going to have a certified appraiser either on staff or as a consultant. So when you come in and you have a problem with your assessment, we're going to analyze it. We're going to conduct a due process hearing in the office in New Iberia. You don't have to go to Baton Rouge to get fairness. You'll get it right here in New Iberia if I'm your assessor, and I want to be your assessor.
We have a rebuttal, Ms. Spiker.
Yes. So certified appraisers do fee appraisal. Assessors' offices are required to do mass appraisal. Big difference. Not the same standards, not the same principles. So we're required by the state to do that. There is not one magical computer system. We have 6 or 7 programs, and it has to be done manually. The computer system he's thinking about, I think he knows about, is what houses our formula. After we complete the formulas, we put them in a camera system that just holds our information. We have a GIS system that deals with our parcel shape layers, with our mapping. We have an Apex system that does all our sketches. We have an Esri pictometry program. We have several AIS, Assessor Information System program, that is run by I3 Verticals. So there is no one program, and it all has to be done manually and then input into those programs.
Okay, thank you.
And it's $2 million off.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Okay. What are the 3 biggest issues facing the tax assessor's office, and how would you address each?
Integrity is one. This was mailed out January, February. By March, she hadn't closed the books on your tax roll. By April, she had to send it to the auditors in Baton Rouge, legislative auditors in Baton Rouge, to get clearance to go and do what she did, raise the taxes on the taxpayers. Come on, people. We have high inflation, high rent, high mortgages, high health care, high flood insurance, high homeowners insurance, and she didn't take that into consideration. But when you go to Compass and look at her property to see what she's been paying the last few years, it's been underassessed. I had 2 different realtors, reputable, go and look at assessing it. They couldn't find it on the Compass map. Lord knows why. They had everybody else on the interlake. They couldn't find hers. But when they went and assessed it, foot for foot, inch for inch, without going on the inside, with the big swimming pool, they all assessed it at $525,000 to $500,000. She's not been paying her fair share of the taxes. And they had a case recently in another parish where the assessor did the same thing. The deputy assessor did the same thing. He was charged with malfeasance in office. He resigned, and he's in jail right now. Watch out, Ms. Assessor, Ms. Spiker.
I'm going to remind you all, please answer the question as it's asked. Okay?
Well-
I'm hearing that from, that's not me, I'm hearing that from our audience.
I feel a little trumpy tonight.
Question number 3, we'll begin with Mr. Groner, and then we'll go to Mr. Lewis and Ms. Spiker. Question number 3, the year 2024 is a reassessment year, and local governments must choose to roll forward or not. Can you explain roll forward, and what is the procedure for doing so?
Sure. The parish council has already voted on that, and I commend them for their vote. They've voted to not roll forward. What that means is when the assessor does their reassessment, usually she increases the property values. Well, when that happens, what you pay for your millages can go up. What the parish council has wisely done is saying, we're not going to let the property taxes that you paid last year go up. We're going to roll back, which means you get to pay the same amount that you paid last year. So I commend the parish council. It took a lot of leadership for Warren Gotchson and the other members of the council, Natalie Broussard's here, to do that. So that's what I would do. I would certainly recommend it. Look, we pay enough taxes. Like I say, my biggest concern is, what about the poor people that are in the flood areas? Let me give you another example. Right across the bayou right here, there's 2 houses. One of them is like a $1 million house, pays $800 a year in flood insurance. The house very next door is probably worth less than half of that amount. You know what it pays in flood insurance? $10,000 a year. You think that computer program that they're using at the assessor's office is picking up that? No. That house next door has been for sale for 3 years. You know why it doesn't sell? Because every time they bring a buyer to that house, they say $10,000 a year in flood insurance. Thank you anyway, but we're going to go somewhere else. So it's a serious problem, and it's not being considered, and it needs to be incorporated into what we determine as fair market value for property in Iberia Parish.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lewis?
Unfortunately, we didn't have the same results as the parish government, and I want to applaud them for doing what they did. They rolled it down. We had, about a month ago, the school district had the opportunity to roll it down. The state had mandated a certain millage on operational and business, and they recommended, they had rolled it down to 6.01%. And we could roll it up, move it up. And the school district decided to move it up to 6.15, so they could recapture what they were collecting at the original millage. So I voted against that. I felt with the citizens of Iberia Parish just passing a bond issue for some $63 million, $85,000 wasn't gonna make us or break us. And I was the lone vote amongst most of my conservative colleagues on the school board. I voted against that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Spiker?
Can you repeat the question?
I certainly can. The year 2024 is a reassessment year, and local governments must choose to roll forward or not. Can you explain roll forward, and what is the procedure for doing so?
Yes. So the assessor's office is also a taxing district, and we also did roll back. The roll forward process, the way that it works is when you have an increase in your tax roll value, the legislative audit, but let me go back to, I do submit in February during a revaluation year, I have to submit my tax roll to the legislative auditor so she knows how to come up with the figures for your levied millage, your adjusted max meal, and your max meals. At that point, I relay them to all taxing districts so they can decide which millage they need to adopt. During a revaluation year, this year we did have a $13 million increase, but that was mostly, some homes did go up, some stayed the same, and some went down. You don't get an increase across the border. It doesn't work that way in mass appraisal. So what happens is most of that was in our commercial side, our inventory. So when you have an increase in your tax roll, you do have the option to roll forward to collect that extra revenue. You can stay rev neutral and your tax rate goes down. Normally, when you have an increase in your tax roll, most taxing districts do roll down to give that break in case there is an increase in our homes' values and everything. That way they pay the same taxes. But sometimes those districts need to collect more revenue for other business that they need to tend to. So they have the option of rolling forward. When you do the roll forward, there's extra steps. You have to advertise twice to let the people know that you're rolling forward, and it basically is just to collect the extra revenue.
You still have a few seconds.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to question number 4. Mr. Lewis, we'll begin with you. What is the difference in assessing commercial and residential property?
What's the difference?
Yes, sir.
There's no difference. Everybody going to pay taxes, whether it's 1,000 square feet of commercial or 1,000 square feet of a homeowner's property. You're going to pay, at the end of the day, you're going to be assessed. You're going to be assessed by someone who's not assessing herself fairly, her property fairly, and getting away with it.
So is that your answer, Mr. Lewis? Is that
I
there's
am
no
not through.
difference?
You interrupted
Okay.
me. I am
Okay.
not through. I don't see the yellow button yet. Please don't do that. Again, you're going to pay property taxes regardless, commercial, or on your private property. And that's basically my answer. But Ms. Spiker here doesn't pay her fair share. Matter of fact, she's trying to increase it 10% election year right now to try to make, but you're still, according to independent realtors, you're still not paying your fair share. And you're violating the law. And then you want the people on fixed income, people paying high rent, people that have mortgages, people that are trying to make, they can't buy flood insurance on the south side of 90. And you want them to pay?
Okay, thank you. Ms. Spiker, what is the difference in assessing commercial and residential property?
There's big difference. So residential gets assessed at 10% of fair market value. Commercial properties get assessed at 15% of market value, and some commercial properties get assessed at 25% of market value. And I'm just going to clear up the house situation. My house gets, every assessor has to give their house and every relative to the tax commission, and they set the values on this house, just to be clear. But the commercial properties, there's many different. So you have commercial buildings that are at 15%. The land that is attached to commercial buildings is at 10%. The land site development, which is your parking areas, the state says that if you don't have a parking lot, that maybe you wouldn't have the business that you have. That is assessed at 10%. Our public service utilities, those are assessed at 25%. Our bank shares, 25%. Our oil and gas wells, 15%. So it just depends on the different item within the commercial side. And there's many more than that, but it's basically 15 or 25% on the commercial side, 10% on the residential side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Groner.
Well, that is an easy answer. It's 10% for residents, 15% for commercial, and then you can break it down like she just did for the various intricacies between the two. But I think that's really what you're looking for. But let me go on and say this. There's some real estate agents out here in the audience, and what would really help us with the assessor's office is what I call transparency. When you get an assessment from the assessor's office and you look at that number, do you have any idea how they determine that number? No. Why? Because they don't tell you. There's three methods to determine value: the market approach or comparison approach, the income approach, or the cost approach. So which method do they use? And if it's comparison, which is most residential, why don't you show us what those comps are? That would help real estate agents to know to look at it and compare apples to apples or oranges to oranges. We could then see how a flood insurance house is compared to the house next door that's only paying $800 a month. I mean, the transparency would benefit everyone. I had a mortgage person in my office today. He said, David, you know, every other tax assessor shows the millages. Why didn't Iberia do that? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to be the assessor. I guarantee you we're going to be a lot more service-oriented to help banks, to help mortgage companies, to help real estate agents, get them the information they need to do their job, which will help the public, which will help everybody. Why don't we do that? Why? Because they do it the same way over and over again. I want to come in with a fresh approach. I want to come in with some fresh ideas. I want to bring my experience in real estate, in dealing with bankers, in dealing with real estate agents, in dealing with the legal community. I want to bring that to the assessor's office and say there is a better way. We can make some changes that's going to bring this office forward in the future. I want to be your assessor. I know I can do a good job for Iberia Parish.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to question number 5. Ms. Spiker, we'll begin with you. What benefits do you believe the assessor's office provides to both the taxing districts and its property owners?
I believe there's many benefits. So the assessor's office with the taxing districts we help them with their millage adoption process. That is submitted to the legislative auditor, but we do help them in calculating and figure out which millage, the revenue they would collect with whatever millage they decide to go with. We do help with that. It is important that the assessor pass their ratio studies. You have to know the difference between the coefficient of dispersions between residential and commercials to pass your ratio study to make sure your tax roll gets is balanced and approved, so your taxing districts can collect the revenue they need to service the people and the businesses within their districts. As far as the taxpayers side, we just need to make sure that we have the accurate information and that everyone is paying their fair share. We do not want anyone to pay more than they need to or less than they need to. And Mr. Groner's statement with the transparency, if he owned a house in Iberia Parish, he could come in and ask the question about his house, and I could show him that what his house is compared to and every comp that was in that area and the cost per square foot. All of that information is at hand and readily available. It's just a click in that. On the computer side, we can click a button and show you all the houses you compare to. On the manual side, we have a book showing every sale, the cost per square foot, and then we have the average, and I show you where you are assessed. So we do have the transparency. He just has not stepped foot in my office to ask about it.
Thank you. Mr. Groner, what benefits do you believe the assessor's office provides to both the taxing districts and its property owners?
Well, I'll tell you what it doesn't provide is transparency, that she's claiming you could go to the office, you can bang on the door, you can try to get in. If they don't shut you out, maybe they'll tell you the information. It should be on the website. You should be able to pull it up and look at it. So what benefit? Let me tell you what most people do with the assessor site. They want to know who owns this piece of property. So they go to the assessor site, they put in the address, they find out, well, who is the assessor, who's the owner? But guess what? A lot of times the assessor has it wrong. They get the wrong owner, or they get an owner that only has a fractional interest. As a title attorney, we're constantly calling the assessor's office saying, do you realize that there's 5 owners to this property, not just one? Do you realize that you don't have the right property dimensions? Nobody uses a property description for the assessor's office to do a property description for a sale. That would be malpractice. You have to use a legal description that has a much more involved description of where the property is and what the dimensions are. What other benefits? If we had more transparency, and let me say this about my home. I've owned more homes in this parish than Ms. Spiker's ever had. And the only reason I don't have a home right now is because I had a nice home at City Park. It was a 2-story home. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor. My wife got breast cancer. She couldn't make it up and down the stairs. We had to sell that home. Her sister has a nice home in a nice subdivision. Said, David, why don't y'all, or Carolyn, why don't y'all come stay in that home? I'm not using it. And that's where we are right now. So there's a reason why I, quote, don't own a home, but I've owned many homes in this parish. And I'd like to know how they reach my assessment. Be transparent. Tell us your method. If you're using a comp, tell us what that comp is. That would be a lot more useful than telling me I need to come bang on her door, to come in her office, where they may or may not give me the information that I need. I want to be your assessor.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, what benefits do you believe the assessor's office provides to both the taxing districts and to the property owners?
Let me give it to you this way. The tax office, those who say they know it all, you're not telling the truth. The tax office has a well-trained group of employees. I said, and I'm telling you tonight, when I become your assessor, your boss, you're going to train me. Yes. Oh, that's a big deal. Like when you got employment there, they had to train you. You're going to train me. Like David Ditch, when he became clerk of court, they had to train him. And he's doing one hell of a job as clerk of court. And let me give you this one. If you have no intention, you can start looking right now. Because if you're not going to trained me and helped me get to where some of y'all might have been there when Ricky Huval was there. Y'all helped him. Taylor Barras, because he was a banker and somebody that I endorsed and campaigned for, ultimately retiring as Speaker of the House. Y'all have to help him get where he needs to be. So, ain't no shame in my game. I don't claim to know it all. I don't claim to know it all. I don't, Roxy, sit down. Don't entertain them people. They rude like that. But again, you're gonna have a job, and I would never put you out in the sun, because some of you darker than me in here tonight. And that ain't good. You ain't taking that sun real good. But y'all ask for training me, y'all gonna get me where I need to be. Thank you.
Question number 6 will begin with Mr. Groner. Property values are reassessed every 4 years.
Go get you a job.
How has assessment value changed over the last 2 reassessments or the last 8 years in Iberia Parish? What economic or other factors do you think contributed to those changes?
Okay. Everybody knows every time they reassess property values in Iberia Parish, the values go up. They never go down. And yet, I'm going to quit harping about flood insurance, but it's only because there are people that can't pay their mortgages because of flood insurance. They're losing their homes. And then those that still have their homes, they can't sell them. They can't sell them because there's no market for a home that has to pay $10,000. Or I did one the other day. A ranch-style home pays $22,000 a year in flood insurance. That is devastating. So is that incorporated? Those values should come down. There should not be an automatic increase every year, every year, every year. So there are, now look, there's subdivisions and there's some places where the values do go up. And that's appropriate. It's supposed to be fair market value. But that's where I come in with my background and experience. I am an advocate for fairness. I've always represented the little guy. I've never represented insurance companies or big corporations. So when you elect me as your assessor, you're going to have a friend in the office that will listen to you and incorporate, at least find out what it is, what problems you may have or what questions you may have about how your assessment was done, and help explain it to you, either so that you can understand it or explain it to me so I can adjust it to your favor. I'm willing to listen. I'm not willing to just say it's my way or the highway. That attitude has to change. But speaking of David Ditch, what a great example. Here's someone that came in an office that was in disarray, and he and Wes had never, his deputy, he had never worked at the clerk's office. He didn't work there 20 years. He came in with some fresh ideas, with education, experience, successful businessman. He turned that office around. It's one of the top clerk of courts offices in the state of Louisiana. And that office has multiple functions, many more functions than the assessor's office.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, property values are reassessed every 4 years. How has assessment values changed over the last 2 reassessments or the last 8 years in Iberia Parish? And what economic or other factors do you think contributed to those changes?
Well, New Iberia is definitely not Lafayette. The poor people, talking about this flood insurance on the south side of 90, the poor people there can't even get homeowners insurance, flood insurance. Why are they paying the same price that a 3,000 square foot home is paying in New Iberia, where we don't flood? We do flood on the western end and part, but in Lydia, Avery Island, Delcom, even Generette, that's unfair to these people to be being assessed at the same rate. How has it changed? Well, some doing the assessment, she says she has all the instruments. She's a CLA certified, or But people, that office is not helping people. They need to be in a mode when people come in and don't know to offer things to them. How many people know at 65 they can claim homestead exemption? How many people that have military disabilities or disability? How many people does this office tell that to? You keep disabled people at the window. You don't bring them in. You don't feel welcome. I'm disabled. I went for information. I had to stand to the window with 3 back surgeries. It's nice to have a couple of chairs in the front of the office where you can sit people down and be more sensitive to your taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Spiker?
Can you please repeat?
I certainly will. Property values are reassessed every 4 years. How have the assessment values changed over the last 2 reassessments or the last 8 years in Iberia Parish? What economic or other factors do you think contributed to those changes?
Well, in 2020, there was an increase, but COVID happened right after, and our tax roll had a $30 million loss in 2021. We had a $15 million loss in 2022. So, and the way revaluation works, well, the first thing I wanted to say, they mentioned adjusting to the favor of the taxpayer. The assessor does not have the power to assess on what they feel like is right. We have rules and regs that we have to follow. There are formulas in the mass appraisal process. Insurance, unfortunately, is not a factor in that process. And in order for us to pass all our studies and to make sure that we're doing things the way that it's supposed to go, we have to follow the rules. There is always an open door in our office, and everyone knows that does come in. We want to make sure that we are assessing everything accurately. There is no automatic increase. The way mass appraisal works is you have to revalue alike properties in alike areas. So we have 500 and something subdivisions plus all our rural areas. All our subs are grouped to like subs. Those are in what we call groups. And then our areas are all our like rural areas. And the way revaluation works is it's based on the sales. So if you have a flood area and you have a valid a seller and a buyer who agree to the value of this property, they are setting the market value. They are setting that cost per square foot. So if they think it's not worth it, then they shouldn't be paying. If they think it's worth $30 a square foot, then they shouldn't pay $50 a square foot. And that's where we pull our data. The state tells us the dates.
Okay, thank you. Question number 7 will begin with Mr. Lewis. How do the Iberia Parish tax rates compare to surrounding parishes, and are they competitive? In other words, are the Iberia Parish tax rates driving residents and businesses away from Iberia Parish, or are they attracting them?
If I compare to Lafayette, I would have to tell you, for those of us who can afford them here, we're better off here than in Lafayette. But Lafayette has so many things they're offering. Eaterings, Karen Crow's booming, people's buying property. Scott, I went to Scott and got lost. Years ago, I used to run to Scott to go out and party. And Youngsville, Broussard. So our taxes here is less than Lafayette. But we still got poor people here. We still got people that's struggling here, that's trying to make it here. And it's all right to tax people. And you saying the law doesn't allow. Well, I'm not just going to count on your word for it, because I have a speed dial in my phone, unlike probably nobody else in this room, but Senator me, yes. And I'm gonna ask the questions. See, I got resources. I'm not just coming ask y'all to train me. I have resources. You know it, I know it, and pretty much the people that know me in here know. So, we're doing pretty good here, but still, some doing it, getting taxed fairly, and some not. You said the state regulates your tax. I don't believe. I don't believe they've seen what I've seen about what you're paying on your property. They have seen what I see and what independent realtors have showed me. You're underpaying taxes. I know you're underpaying.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Ms. Spiker, how do Iberia Parish tax rates compare to surrounding parishes, and are they competitive? In other words, are the Iberia Parish tax rates driving residents and businesses away from Iberia Parish, or are they attracting them?
Ad valorem tax rates, we are the lowest in Acadiana. We actually the 8th lowest in the state, so we're 8th out of 64 parish with the lowest millage rate. Whether that's driving them out, I don't think that's the issue driving them out. Actually, it's what I think the Economic Development Authority uses that to actually pull businesses in, actually. So I don't believe it would be a factor in driving anything out. I believe there's other factors when it comes to that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Groner, do I need to repeat?
Yeah,
Would you
please.
like me to repeat? Okay. How do the Iberia Parish tax rates compare to surrounding parishes, and are they competitive? In other words, are the Iberia Parish tax rates driving residents and businesses away from Iberia Parish, or are they attracting them?
Okay, I'm going to answer that question, but first I want to say this. I've read the tax commission rules. The tax commission rules say that you can use the mortgage rate in determining what fair market value is. You know what's in a mortgage? Escrow. You know what's in escrow? Insurance and taxes. So it can be used in evaluation. They just don't do it that way in the assessor's office. I'll do it that way. Okay, back to your question. Yes, we have a lower rate of taxes in Lafayette and surrounding areas. That's very attractive for a developer. So why aren't we getting more development in Iberia Parish? And that's a project I've been working on with Larry Richard, our parish president, and other people in the parish, because we're getting ready to have a crisis in this parish. We have more jobs coming in and no place for people to live. And if we don't do something about it, guess where they're going to all go live? They're all going to live in Youngsville and Broussard. We're going to miss out on a tax base, and we can produce so much revenue if we just can produce some more rooftops. So let's keep the tax base down. That's good. But what are the other reasons why they're not coming here? Well, availability of land in large tracts so they could do big developments. I've been helping President Richard in finding and locating a couple of big landowners, and I've brought also some big developers to come in and show interest. So these are steps that need to be taken. And as assessor, is it my job to do that? No, but I'd be a public servant, which means whatever it takes to get this parish going forward, you could count me in, Coach. Take me off the bench. I want to help. And if it means me helping Larry Richard or Warren Gotchson or Natalie Broussard or any of the other elected officials here tonight, that's what I'm going to do, because we need to all pull together and work together and not work separately and have conflicts like goes on now between the assessor's office and the clerk of court. We don't need that. We need to work cohesively together. Bring this parish forward. I really want to be your assessor. I know I can do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 8, we're going to begin with Ms. Spiker. Working with the public is an important part of the assessor's job. Your ability to communicate with the public effectively is critical to your success in this position. In your opinion, what are some of the critical factors for communicating with the public?
Well, we have our website. Like I said, I sent the flyer out to every resident in the parish that owned a home or business, and then we also have our website where we put everything on the website. I also just signed a contract for a new app, and I believe our sheriff has the same app, which allows some push notifications if there's some changing, or if there's something that they need to know right away, they'll be able to access through that app. The assessor's office is really limited to, we have to maintain a certain budget, so we don't have all of this extra money to do a lot of mail outs and all that, but we do let them know as much as we can. Like I said, on our website, mail outs, and now we'll have an app. So I think we're doing a really good job, and I just took office in January, so they got to give me a second to be able to get that going. So
Thank you.
yes.
Mr. Groner, working with the public is an important part of the assessor's job. Your ability to communicate with the public effectively is critical to the success in this position. In your opinion, what are some of the critical factors for communicating with the public?
Well, there's a lot of things that could be done to communicate with the public. First of all, what about just letting people know when you're 65 that you can have your assessments frozen? When you apply for your homestead exemption, you have to give the assessor your birth date. Well, how hard would it be for a computer to kick off every day who's turning 65 so the assessor's office could either make a call or send a letter, happy birthday, guess what? If you meet the economic threshold, you can have your assessments frozen. That would be a great item of communication. Do they do that now? No. Why not? Because that's just not the way they do it. By the way, when I got this in the mail, I thought, wow, she's already sending out campaign pieces. And then I realized this is paid for by the public. This was paid for by the tax assessor's office. Okay, well, I wasn't planning on running at that time, and I said, well, okay, I guess that's how it goes with the assessor's office. And as I gave it more time, more people started calling me and say, David, please run. Please give us a choice. It's been the same group that's held the assessor's office for 60 years. Are we going to let it continue, or is it time to get someone new? Let's change the system, get some fresh ideas in there. And I thought, you know what, there are changes that need to be made. I can make those changes. I have some tools that I've used with my education, with my experience, with my day-to-day living, that can make the assessor's office a better place. I've watched David Ditch do it with the clerk of court's office. I can do it with the assessor's office.
Thank you. Last question, folks. Oh, Mr. Lewis, I'm sorry.
Could you repeat the question?
I certainly can. Working with the public is an important part of the assessor's job. Your ability to communicate with the public effectively is critical to your success in this position. In your opinion, what are some of the critical factors for communicating with the public?
I'm going to start answering it like this. I've been elected 6 times. I've worked with the current mayor, Freddie DeCourt, Larry Richard, David Dish, and many others. And I'm working with our current senator, Blake Miguez, Bo Boyer, Marcus Bryant, Jacob Landry, and even I visit with the governor, Jeff Landry. You see my card. Y'all seen it, y'all got him. Who I've endorsed, who I've campaigned for, what the people have done for me 6 times as a city councilman and as a school board member. Nobody up here can match that record. You can laugh, you can snicker, you can do what you want. I know people trust you, Lewis. I have a word. They have never, in all my years, they may have said some things about me, but I have never had no one call me a liar. Never. Elected people that got to vote, never. That's who I am. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I ain't the dumbest. And again, I got speed dial. If I need to know something, I'm not gonna be answering like a fool. I'm gonna know what I'm talking about. And if I don't, I'm not too proud to say I don't. I will get back with you and find out. But nobody else up here shares that luxury. 6 times. It's in the book. And look at my record.
Now we will move on to the last question of the night. We will begin with Mr. Groner, then Mr. Lewis, and Ms. Spiker. What is an issue that has not been raised or an issue you think needs more time to discuss?
Well, I think the issue is whether we continue with business as usual at the assessor's office, or does the public want a change of a regime change? Or does the public want fresh ideas? Does the public want some new, someone new and fresh in the office that can offer a fresh perspective that's never been used before in the assessor's office? That to me is the issue. If you like it the way it's going, if you don't want transparency, if you don't care about flood insurance, if you don't care about it's my way or the highway, then vote for the interim assessor. But if you want change, if you really want someone to give real change, then I suggest that I can provide that change. And the types of things that I want to do is not only with regard to assessment, but providing a service to the public. You know, the assessor's office is a public servant. They should be more friendly with the public and more willing to accommodate the public. Give the public more information. Like I say, on the assessment site, why not give the information as to how the assessment was made? Why not go ahead and do like the other assessors and publish the millages so that someone that's trying to do a mortgage can look up and see, okay, that's the assessment, those are the millages, and this is what the taxes are. You don't have to go from one place to the other to find all that information. The assessor could put it all in one place, which would make banking easier, mortgage companies easier, real estate agents would have an easier time. The assessor's office could be a lot more accommodating, which would benefit the public. I want to be your assessor. I know I can do a good job. I can bring this office forward. Please consider number 15, David Groner, assessor.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, what is an issue that has not been raised or an issue you think needs more time to discuss?
For longer than most of the people here tonight has been living, the assessor's office has been handed down to a chosen one. You, the voters, have just been told who your next assessor is. My friends, we are living in 2024. Don't you think it's time we buck history and choose for ourselves who we will elect as our next assessor? Let us have an election, and let us not have a coronation. It's been said, and I want to correct something, because Taylor Barra is a friend of mine. Taylor Barra is a colleague of mine. I will not let anyone lie on him, Ms. Spiker, saying he rolled up anything. He's been gone 8 months. He's current chief of staff for the governor, the great governor of the state of Louisiana, Jeff Landry. Stop spreading that lie. You raised them, take ownership. And by the way, when are you going to do like Lafayette and let their people know by mail? You and the sheriff need to be mailing out, letting people know they're going to have an increase so they can prepare in this economy with high inflation and everything else. When are you and the sheriff? No, don't wait till after the election. Do what Lafayette is doing. They're letting the people know so they can financially prepare for January. You did it. You raised their property taxes. Own it.
All right, Ms. Spiker, what's an issue that has not been raised or an issue you think needs more time to discuss?
First thing, I never said Taylor wrote up anything. Before Taylor left, he and I did the revaluation together. So, revaluation starts in August
You're
of, so
assessed.
just saying. There was an election in 2019 and 2023 when Taylor Barra did run for assessor, but neither one of you decided to jump in that race. I think we know why. But, so
There was no
the thing
need to be
the
a
thing that we
competency.
didn't discuss was what I think it takes to be an effective assessor. I believe you have to have experience or knowledge in the mass appraisal. It is required, whether they believe or not, it is to be successful. I believe being fiscally responsible is also required. You are responsible for $800 million tax roll, so you can't have people who are not fiscally responsible. You need strong math skills, preferably geometry, because there is lots and tons of calculations, manual calculations not done by a computer, and you need strong mapping skills. There are attorneys in here that know sometimes they just copy deeds, and a lot of them are in meets and bounds, where they give us a direction, a distance, and all these things, and you have to know how to manually do that. I am the only employee in the office that can do that. One time we had a 15-page description of one lot, and that takes days, but you have to have that experience and knowledge. Our oil and gas wells, you need to know how to value that. Salt mines, Iberia is a parish that has very distinct resources. So you need to know how to value railroads and bank shares and all these things.
All right, thank you all. This concludes the questions. You will now be given 90 seconds each to make closing statements. We began the opening statements with Mr. Groner, so we'll begin on the other end with Ms. Spiker, and then we will go to Mr. Lewis and Mr. Groner. So Ms. Spiker, you have 90 seconds for a closing statement.
Thank you. As I began this campaign journey, everyone kept telling me it's not what you know, but it was who you knew, and I could not disagree more. The assessor's office is a very technical office. Our fire department, police, schools, municipalities rely heavily on the assessor's abilities so their operations are uninterrupted. It is important to have someone who has a clear understanding of the assessor's responsibilities, duties, and actually know how to accurately apply and calculate values. Experience does matter. I would like to thank the Chamber for hosting this great event. Thank you to the audience for attending, and especially my amazing staff. I am so proud of the work you do every day, every single day. It truly has been an honor serving in the assessor's office for nearly 2 decades, and I look forward to continuing that service with the help of your support and vote on November 5th.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. Mr. Lewis, if you have 90 seconds for a closing statement.
If you want an assessor who would undervalue her big fancy home and swimming pool
I don't have
to
a
pay
pool.
less taxes while making the rest of us pay more, then Ms. Spiker is your candidate. It's not only wrong, but it's illegal. If you want an assessor that will lower your taxes and be fair to everyone and have an open door policy, as I do, anyone that has ever dealt with me, know you can call me, I will answer, then vote for Raymond Shudu Lewis. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Groner, 90 seconds for your closing statement.
Yeah, well, thank you again for this wonderful event to give the public and the audience at home a chance to evaluate the candidates and listen to each candidate's description of their own experience and what ideas they have to bring the assessor's office forward. I see we have in the audience President Larry Richard. I see Blake Migas, our state senator, of course Warren Gotchson, Natalie Broussard, These are all public officials that do a wonderful job in this parish. I'd love to join them. And the reason why is because why am I doing this? I've got a great law practice. I help a lot of people save their estates from nursing homes. But I love community service. You know, I'm a member of CCA, Ducks Unlimited, all these other organizations, but I've always wanted to not just be a member, I wanted to excel in leadership. And that's what I've done. When I was in IDF, I was in there for 8 years, and at the last part, we brought in, I say we, I give all the credit to Craig Romero. He was parish president at the time. He helped spearhead a group that helped bring in the Arco Fleur Daniels project that gave New Iberia and Iberia Parish a jump start. We were struggling at the time. The oil industry was down, and this gave the Port of Iberia a shot in the arm. It gave the economy of New Iberia a shot in the arm. Then I went into the hospital board. I served there, along with Jimmy Falterman, Parker Templeton. We acquired Dotrieve Hospital. We borrowed $35 million. That doubled the size of Iberia Medical Center. It's provided more medical treatment to Iberia Parish. I really want to be your assessor. Number 15.
Thank you all. This concludes tonight's forum for Iberia Parish Tax Assessor. This also concludes our forums for this fall's elections in city and parish of New Iberia and Iberia Parish. We certainly appreciate the time and effort put forth by the candidates here tonight. How about a round of applause for our candidates? Again, we wish all the candidates well. We want to encourage all registered voters to exercise your right to vote in this upcoming election.